Story 1. Throwaway account. I don't want the whole family up in my business for this just yet. All right. The title is long-winded, I know, but hear me out. I, 45F, have a daughter, 15F, who suffers from severe social anxiety. It is incredibly crippling and has prevented her from many extracurriculars and even her education over the years. I left my job 5 years ago to start homeschooling her and have since put her in therapy. The therapist and I have been working on getting her into school more and more for the past year and a half. This is all to say I am not trying to shame my daughter for her social anxiety at all. It is a debilitating thing to live with, and I can see that firsthand. Last month, the therapist recommended getting a service dog for my daughter in order to help her navigate public settings better. Despite thinking this was a huge responsibility, I did see the excitement on my daughter's face. She really wanted a dog and seemed determined to continue her progress with the help of an animal. I was initially on board with this and started the necessary research required. However, a few weeks ago, I left my daughter with my sister-in-law for a few days because my mother was sick and I needed to visit her a few hours away. My husband was on a work trip, so the plan was for my Sil to continue her homeschooling for as many hours as she could manage. Instead, I got a call from her 2 days in, demanding I take my daughter back home. I came to find out that my sister-in-law had to leave the house for a few hours and asked my daughter to take care of her senior dog. This dog is very old and small. She was adopted just over a year ago, so she's still a bit wary of people. My daughter, in an attempt to recreate some stupid online video, took this senior dog to the roof of the house and left her there. The poor thing was so scared she she-sheet herself on the roof, shaking while my daughter filmed. Of course, this didn't go to plan, and the dog ended up falling off the roof and into the swimming pool. Out of sheer luck, the dog survived. However, due to her age and size, the dog ended up breaking a few ribs in her paw. When I heard this, I was absolutely livid. I confronted my daughter immediately, and she admitted to wanting to recreate a video she saw online. She then proceeded to use a defense that went along the lines of, "That dog is old." If it were younger, then nothing would have happened. She also mentioned how she didn't really think what she did was that bad because it's an unloved shelter dog with no real value, unlike a service dog or a newborn puppy. I was very upset to hear these words coming out of my daughter's mouth. I have no idea where she learned this from, considering neither I nor my husband share these beliefs. I instantly told my daughter that she would not be getting a service dog. I also told her that she would have to pay her aunt's vet bill, no matter what it took, because the bill is in the thousands. She will have to find a way to make that money. My daughter got upset and said I was being unfair because she can't get a job due to her social anxiety, but I told her she should have thought about that before doing what she did. My daughter has since been attempting to search for a part-time job that requires minimal face-to-face interaction. Despite me and my husband helping her, she was only able to find a waitress job. I asked my sister-in-law if she was okay with my daughter working the vet bill off instead, but she refused, saying she really had no interest in having my daughter anywhere near her house or dog again. I honestly thought that was fair enough, so I told my daughter she had to stick with this because that vet bill was her responsibility alone. My husband told me I might be in the wrong for suggesting our daughter pay off the entire bill and that we should probably just restrict her pocket money until the bill is paid off. I think that's not a good enough punishment because her pocket money isn't earned. It's what my husband and I give her for free time at the start of the week. Also, this bill is entirely her fault and therefore her responsibility. It's unfortunate that the only jobs available are in customer service, but what else can we do? My daughter's therapist also reached out, saying she thinks it was wrong of me to completely take the service dog idea off the table, considering it is a medical necessity. She also pointed out that suddenly forcing my daughter into an unfamiliar job may be too daunting. Are my husband and my daughter's therapist right? Am I being too harsh on my daughter? Relevant comments. Despite what the therapist says, I'm not sure that a legitimate service animal organization would approve an animal for your daughter. Kid has stayed home for 5 years with no social interaction with her peers other than stupid TikTok content, time to take the phone, sign the kid up for a league, art class or something. The therapist is taking in the dough and encouraging this. I swear some kids need good old immigrant parents like mine. As someone who's always had trouble making friends, my dogs were absolutely treasured. You mean there's this creature that will hang out with me with no expectations and it just needs to be fed and use the bathroom? But Ops kid is like, hey, let me terrify it for the likes. There's something so wrong and off about that. A 15-year-old should know better. This isn't a 5-year-old who maybe doesn't understand that being on a roof is dangerous. Update. Okay, first off, I would like to say that although I was warned Reddit was absolutely brutal, you guys did not hold back. Shout out to the person who DM'd me to tell me to kill myself and my family. I would like everyone to know that I read almost every single comment, even if I didn't reply to all of them. Also, to clarify, when I said a service animal, I was told we would be able to get one to alert my daughter to panic attacks and help calm her down. However, after speaking to other resources, we were explained that what the therapist was talking about was an Issei. Apologies for any confusion. This is new to me. And yes, where we live in America, psychologists can prescribe simple anxiety medications. Also, yes, I obviously took away my daughter's phone and laptop after this. She's only allowed what she needs to complete her studies. On to the update, there was a lot of helpful advice and support. So I do feel like I owe you guys an update. My husband and I have been fighting for weeks now on how to handle this. We did end up taking her to a psychiatrist, and she was diagnosed with severe social anxiety as before, and also bipolar disorder. We were told that the reason she wasn't diagnosed earlier is because she was far too young, and this is something that most likely only became visible very recently as she hit puberty. So no, my daughter is not a sociopath. Sorry to disappoint. And yes, we were told to continue homeschooling as it's too late to put her in a school where everyone has already developed their own friendship groups, etc. I once again had to leave to care for my sick mother, which left my daughter with my husband. Apparently, while I was gone, my husband thought it was a genius idea to turn up to my sister-in-law house and ask for my daughter to see the dog under supervision. My sister-in-law didn't agree but was coerced by my husband. This is what I'm assuming, because despite what my husband says, I don't believe she would have been on board with this. My daughter started crying and apologizing, claiming she felt so sad seeing the broken senior pup too scared to come close to her. My husband has since decided that, in light of this, my daughter deserves her Issei. I completely disagree with this stance and believe that she needs more support, therapy, and a large range of resources not limited to an animal. Even if my daughter is genuinely sorry, this isn't a mistake that can be easily forgiven in a month. I still think we should be pushing her to continue a part-time job, something she's been beginning to do. She's been sent home from the restaurant a few times already for panic attacks and has even complained of vomiting during her breaks. I told her she's welcome to search for other jobs she might find easier, which she has started to do, although it's been almost 3 weeks of working. I have asked her to do this a minimum of 2 months before quitting and finding something else. She's also not allowed to quit unless she comes to me with a different plan to pay the money back. My husband told me he has started the application process for an ESA. I was very angry and asked him to stop, but he argued that he thinks he should take over her care from now on and quit his job while I worked instead. I disagree because I'm the one who has been handling it for 6 years, but apparently I don't truly understand just how sorry she is now. In light of this, I contacted my SIL and told her that I think it would be best if she filed a police report. I do want this on record because, as many of you said, they won't give my daughter an animal if they find out about this. She agreed and did file a report, which was totally heartbreaking for me. It really hurts to have to do something like this to my daughter. My husband found out, and we've now been arguing for days. He's incredibly angry, but I'm attempting to stick with this. I'm not sure how the next few weeks will pan out, but I will say that I'm incredibly worried for the future. I have no idea what to do or how to get my husband to see my side. This is very concerning, but thank you for listening, Reddit. And for those of you who gave advice and support, I really, really appreciate it. Story 2. My brother is absolutely fixated on me and thinks every single action I take is directly and exclusively orchestrated to piss him off. It's so effing creepy, and I'm starting to fear for my life as he's using his delusional perception of my actions as an excuse to be actively aggressive with me. He has said on multiple occasions that passive aggression will be met with active aggression. If you cross me, I will kill you. He has physically confronted me on several occasions, including putting his hands on me during a discussion, grabbing my face, body blocking me while accusing me of theft. He misplaced it. And even once trying to repeatedly strike me in the head with a glass pie plate while loudly screaming die over and over. When he's not actively threatening my life, he's threatening to kill himself to our mom to brute force sympathy. He used to mock my cutting scars and say my self-harming tendencies, which got me committed overnight twice, were to garner attention and avoid responsibility. From where I'm standing, that accusation was pure projection, as he only pretends to be self-harming when challenged on his laziness. Otherwise, his acting side job would cut into loudly, and from what I can hear from my room, happily playing Dragon Dogma 2 all effing day while whining about there being no groceries. My brother in Christ, the things you ask for take up more than half of our entire grocery budget, and you ate it all in the first week. Who the F do you think you are? Back when I was working full-time to bring home groceries, he actually, unironically, without a hint of sarcasm, said, if you're going to use your job as an excuse to stay up late on the weekends, the least you could do is give me some money. It's like, do you not see the fridge, the deep freezer? Who the Fing Shing Angel Kissing Christ do you think was putting all that food there? I just stopped working. Why would I want to spend all my time working and have like 20% disposable income that I still had to dip into to buy stuff for the house because I was spending almost all my money on rent or groceries and not even be allowed to stay up late? So I stopped going and let the food bank and my disability payments pick up my slack, which meant the quality of our groceries plummeted. It was either that or I was going to have a bipolar meltdown. Interesting how I'm expected to manage my symptoms because no matter what happens, it's 100% my fault. But he can just flail with impunity, and both our parents, any institution you can name will play defense and make excuses for him. Every day he finds something to complain about and demands that I see it as an act of passive aggression. He gets viciously angry. And you can hear the fake happiness in his tone as he goes, no, it was passive aggressive when you dared to deny an accusation. Like the other day he left his dirty pot on the counter, and I wanted to use it, so I cleaned it. I didn't mention it to him or leave a petty note, nothing. It wasn't a big deal because he usually washes his dishes, and it was soaking already. The pot was needed right then and there, though. I completely forgot about it until he banged on my door and once again demanded that I acknowledge that me wanting to use a pot and quietly washing it to do so was an act of passive aggression and me trying to garner favor. It's effing pot. And he wouldn't accept my apology for washing his dishes until I raised my voice. You can literally hear the tone in his voice go from threatening and insulting to professional victim on a dime. All I said when he was calling me a manipulative, passive-aggressive cockroach was, "It's a effing pot. Stop yelling through my door. It's like he's trying to bait a physical confrontation with me so he can legally kill me." Not happening, though. I have been working out for the past 2 months. If he wants to throw his weight around, I may as well be prepared to catch it. In a way, I have to thank him. Seeing my arms and shoulders grow and feeling the explosive power grow with each week is actually quite nice. Even so, I hope I won't need to defend myself. I doubt the justice system would side with me, even in the case of self-defense. He also thinks every little sound I make is to antagonize him, making demands backed by threats of violence towards both myself and my mom. I'm not allowed to walk on my heels in my own effing home because the sound upsets him, and that's my problem. I have to go to bed at 10 p.m., and I'm not allowed to leave my room until 9 in the morning. It's not, you can't leave your room at 10 p.m. He wants all sounds to cut out after that point. I'm nearly 30 years old, and I have a worse curfew than I did at 17. Because a 33-year-old man can't grapple with the fact that he's a loser and can't afford to live on his own, but still wants all the benefits of living at home. Just the other day, he was pounding on my door and throwing a fit because I coughed while in bed and then disconnected the router. The way he'll use his feelings to justify not following his half of the bargain is infuriating too. He'll just decide that something upsets him, such as me being in bed by 10:15. 10 p.m. isn't the cutoff time, it's when he feels entitled to you sleeping. So he'll wake up at 7 a.m., and wake our mom up to whine about me and then go into the kitchen and make a big loud mess. He'll pour ketchup all over the stove between the elements and then leave a note about it, seeing as everyone else was making a mess. I thought I'd help pigs. I cannot fathom how someone can act like that and consider themselves not passive-aggressive. Or he'll decide that something is missing from his half of the fridge that he pays the least in rent to command and leave a note on my door that says thief. He'll allude to his medication missing and body block me from going to my room. It just feels so hypocritical that he's that quick to scramble for the anything I don't like his passive aggression button, but then retaliates in the most petty and childish ways for the most petty and childish reasons. The only reason society as a whole has allowed him to act like this is because he's sick sad and has high-functioning autism. He just doesn't put in any effort. No one has ever done anything to him. He just does whatever he wants. Because everyone's scared he's either going to lash out or harm himself. But I just don't effing matter, and it really feels like I never have. At the end of the day, I have to ask how badly will he be allowed to harm me before he has legitimate enforcement levied against him? Black eye? Broken bone? Disfigurement? Death? What's the limit? When do my rights as a person actually matter again? The worst part is that I'm starting to feel self-harming. It legitimately feels like life doesn't matter because I don't matter. But I try to keep that from our mom because my brother has that in his back pocket anytime he's asked to so much as sweep the floor, and she doesn't need the additional stress. If anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to give more details. I just kind of wrote up what I've been feeling for about my entire life, but I decided to keep details recent. Edit, if you disagree, say why. I've noticed there's a lot of outrage anytime you so much as treat autistic people as people by giving them responsibility for their actions. No one really gives a shit about the autistic person's relatives. They exist on this planet to be the autistic person's punching bag, personal therapist, and best friend, and they should be grateful they're not being asked for more so long as society doesn't have to intervene and can just less than uselessly judge from the sideline, right? Kokol Mondrak, how old is everyone involved? It matters. My brother is 33. I'm 29, and my mom is in her late 50s. For context, I only came home because my stepdad was abusing my mom, who has cancer, and she wouldn't have been able to afford the rent without him. I wouldn't be here otherwise. I had a decent life in my old town. It wasn't anything glamorous, but it was mine. Then my brother needed a place to stay, which is totally fine, but it's been like walking on eggshells ever since. I'm currently looking to get into subsidized housing. He was offered a unit in our town, but turned it down because he was too proud to accept help. So I'm seeing if they'll give it to me instead. I'm not autistic, but I do have bipolar and ADHD. Meanwhile, in case that falls through, I'm also looking for any housing available. I'm in a bad mental state right now, and I'm really sorry if my post came off as aggro. I've been living this life since before I could speak, but if I do nothing, it'll probably get worse, so I'm looking for work and aggressively saving money. I don't really have much disposable income as is, but that single-digit percentile became 0%. So I can save what I have. I just feel bad abandoning my mom to deal with him.